Netanyahu calls protesters Iran's useful idiots in fiery congressional speech. On July 24, 2024, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu delivered a powerful and controversial speech before Congress, labeling anti-war protesters as Iran's useful idiots. For all we know, Iran is funding the anti-Israel protests happening right now outside this building, Netanyahu asserted. Not that many, but they're there and throughout the city. Netanyahu referred to a recent statement by U.S. Director of National Intelligence Avril Haines, who indicated that Iran is attempting to covertly incite protests in the United States related to the Gaza conflict. Haines clarified that Americans participating in protests are expressing their views in good faith, but Netanyahu painted the protesters with a broad brush, claiming they stand with Hamas and stand with rapists and murderers. Protesters should be ashamed of themselves, says Netanyahu. Netanyahu harshly criticized anti-war and pro-Palestinian protesters, calling them anti-Israel and saying they should be ashamed of themselves. Clarity begins by knowing the difference between good and evil. Yet incredibly, many anti-Israel protesters choose to stand with evil, he said. They stand with Hamas. They stand with rapists and murderers. They stand with people who came into the kibbutzim, into a home. These protesters stand with them. They should be ashamed of themselves. Netanyahu accused protesters of failing to distinguish between those who target terrorists and those who target civilians, emphasizing the difference between Israel's democratic state and the terrorist thugs of Hamas. Representative Rashida Tlaib's silent protest. During Netanyahu's speech, Democratic Representative Rashida Tlaib, the lone Palestinian-American congresswoman, held up a black and white sign reading war criminal on one side and guilty of genocide on the other. She remained seated throughout the speech, while Republican Representative Anna Paulina Luna briefly interacted with her during the address. Ceasefire negotiations ignored. Throughout his nearly 52-minute address, Netanyahu did not mention ceasefire negotiations despite months of international pressure to find a deal. Detailed negotiations have been ongoing for 3 weeks, with US and Israeli officials increasingly optimistic about reaching an agreement. Palestinian rights advocate responds. Mustafa Barghouti, head of the Palestinian National Initiative, denounced Netanyahu's speech, describing it as full of lies and accusing him of advocating Islamophobia. Urgent call for US military aid. Netanyahu urged the United States to fast-track military aid to Israel to expedite an end to the Gaza war and prevent a broader conflict in the Middle East. Fast-tracking US military aid can dramatically expedite an end to the war in Gaza and help prevent a broader war in the Middle East, he stated. Today, as Israel fights on the front line of civilization, I, too, appeal to America. Give us the tools faster, and we'll finish the job faster. Responding to genocide accusations. Netanyahu called accusations of genocide against Palestinians in Gaza outrageous slanders aimed at delegitimizing Israel and demonizing Jews. The outrageous slanders that paint Israel as racist and genocidal are meant to delegitimize Israel, to demonize the Jewish state, and to demonize Jews everywhere, he said, comparing these accusations to historical anti-Semitic lies that led to the Holocaust. Accusations of starvation denied. Netanyahu denied International Criminal Court allegations that Israel is intentionally starving Gazans, calling it complete nonsense and blaming Hamas for any food shortages. Fighting for American interests. Netanyahu argued that Israel's fight against Hamas, Hezbollah, and other Iranian proxies is also a fight for American interests. Iran understands that to truly challenge America, it must first conquer the Middle East, and for this, it uses its many proxies. Yet in the heart of the Middle East, standing in Iran's way, is one proud pro-American democracy, my country, the State of Israel, Netanyahu told Congress. Criticizing academic leaders. Netanyahu criticized university leaders for not condemning campus protests against Israel, calling out the presidents of Harvard, Penn, and his alma mater, MIT, for their lack of action against what he described as calls for genocide. Conclusion. Netanyahu's address to Congress on July 24, 2024, was a stark departure from his previous speeches, focusing immediately on the threat posed by Iran and the need for increased US military support for Israel. His remarks drew both applause and criticism, reflecting the deep divisions in opinions on the ongoing conflict and Israel's actions. Thanks for watching. Like, comment and subscribe for more updates.